So yeah, we at McKinsey, as said, I mean, we primarily serve the large global institutes, but we actually also serve quite a few pure players that are already at a significant size. And we also, some of you that are here in the ecosystem in Berlin, know that we are also quite active these days in the startup scene. So I think the world's coming together, and as Ollie said, we should really have the dialogue, and then I guess the corporates, the startups can learn from each other. So what I would like to talk about is the whole theme of transformation, digital transformation. And also I would like to give a special focus on what's happening in industrial and B2B, because we think that, I mean, digitization is everywhere and everything. We know the left side quite well. I mean, the entire consumer space is digitized. The car is connected, is digitized, the connected home. The right side is definitely also the area where we see now becoming sort of the new opportunities, but also for the established players, there are quite some challenges. So the industrial world, yes, we know the hyped words, Industry 4.0, IoT, but we definitely see this to be very serious. So let me give a few thoughts to you on how we see this transformation happening, and also, most importantly, how to make it successful. My colleagues at the McKinsey Global Institute, which is a think tank that does research, they essentially have picked these 12 technology trends to really disrupt businesses going forward. And as this room likes big numbers, I mean, their estimate is that these 12 technologies in combination till 2020 will essentially create value in the order of magnitude to 14 to 30 trillion US dollar. So this is really fundamental for everybody, and that's why digitization is not just a theme that will disappear, but have a look out what these technologies do to your business. And so as was said before, disruption really fundamentally changes the way that you do business, and if these technologies are really becoming established and mainstream, then there will be more disruption will come. And so watch out the technologies, and the theme is there to stay. New themes will come on top of that. So that's why we think the ability to re-innovate your business and to disrupt other businesses is really central. This is not for fun, this is really determining the future. And as we look in the different sectors, I mean, there are sectors that have already gone either over the cliff or at least they have gone to the new norm. I mean, media is a great example. I mean, the fact that Axel is organizing this, to my understanding, they also earn some money with this type of event. This is a great company that has essentially done the transition from a classical media company to a digital company, and also exploring new revenue pools, new profit pools. Other industries are further behind that curve, but as the speed will increase, they have to be ready now. And you find some of the industrial sectors more on the left side. So that's what I want to also talk about. Another thing that we've done at McKinsey 2 years ago, we have introduced the digital quotient. So you have the intelligent quotient, now you have the digital quotient. It's essentially a set of measures along the dimensions of strategy, culture, technology, and the sort of the capabilities and organizational structures. And the interesting thing is we are correlating that with financial performance. So we have found that the companies that have high DQs are also performing better. So it's a relevant indicator. Now, again, if you look into the sectors, there are big differences. I mean, just confirming what I said before, there is a curve, and there are sectors which are further advanced and others are still in the, let's say, emerging phase. And that spread actually also tells you something. Now, if you then talk to the leaders in the industrial space, they actually look at it from that angle. They say, we in the industrial space have now the opportunity to do the things right, while 20 years ago, a lot of the media companies, the retail companies, the B2C companies have actually not been fast enough and they have slept. So they allowed a lot of the disruptors to come in. And Jeff Immelt, for example, he gave an interview to us where he said, I mean, this is an exciting time now for the industrial players to really use the rise of technology to be rather on the winner side. So that is, I think, an opportunity that a lot of our clients are now getting excited about. But as Ollie said, there will be attackers that will also definitely try to attack the B2B space. Last, let's say, macroeconomic finding from our friends at the Global Institute, the sectors that are much more digitized, so the ones on the right side of that curve, they are truly performing better. They have a significant higher growth rate, 3 times faster profit and margin growth. They have the higher productivity, and they also, interesting or not surprisingly, they also have higher wage increases. So the talent drain that takes the talent goes into these sectors. Exactly what was said before. I mean, the best people go essentially into the sectors, into the companies that are leading this transition. Now, that leaves our clients often with a lot of questions. I mean, where to start? Should I do a venture? Can I outsource it to an incubator, or do I have to do it on my own? Do I need a digital officer? So a lot of these questions are essentially in the mind of CEOs these days. And I think it's very right and also fair to have these questions. And maybe you don't have always an answer. But then, I mean, we also are there to help to find answers. Now, let me give a few, let's say, core beliefs how to master that transformation. First of all, I think especially in times of uncertainty and disruption, you still need a clear strategy and a clear target picture. So for that, a strategy is needed, and you should take that time, and you also have to continuously review that. Second, and I cannot say that or emphasize that enough, follow and understand your customers. The third one is look at digitalization not just as for the new things, but really look at digitalization also as a means to increase efficiency of your existing core business. And that often, for large corporations, lifts a lot of capital that they can reinvest into sort of the transformation. The fourth element is something that we see now arising. We always talk about software, IT, analytics, but also don't forget about the qualitative part, creativity, especially in marketing. I think we're now at the area where the qual and the quan has to come together. Only the quan is not enough, because everybody sort of is moving in that direction. And the fifth and the sixth point, they are really targeted to the organizations that are not digital by heart, but they have to organize for digital, and they have to take a digital mindset. Now, I would give you like a few examples for each of these points and try to sort of also send the message that these transformations can be successfully mastered. First, on the strategic dimensions, it's by really digitizing elements, either on the customer side, on the demand side. So an example would be unbundling. I mean, media industry has done that successfully. You unbundle, you don't buy the newspaper, you essentially get your individual news feed, and that has a higher value to the customer, and he's apparently, that's sort of already creating a superior offer. On the supply side, you have players like Amazon Web Services, that is now the most profitable part of the Amazon ecosystem, that have opened computing power to, I guess, a lot of these startups here in the room, and also to large corporates, and has really changed the way that computing power is offered and supplied. And then you have the marketplaces. I mean, let's say the classical Uber still uses the existing infrastructure of fixed assets in the cars, but they do it in a very different way. And they have essentially taken tremendous profit pools first from the taxi business, but now we will also see this happening in the logistics business by creating a marketplace. So this is, I mean, modest, not saying that this is not very important transformations, but they are still riding on the same core assets that already are existing. On the other hand, and you can see this on the lower side, there is also the extreme disruption where there's really something new products, new services that are offered. A good example is through connectivity. A thermostat from Nest is becoming a completely different device than the classical thermostat. So there is a new customer offering. It's changing the way that people look at thermostats and sort of managing the climate or the temperature at their homes. And that's a new business model that creates a new customer proposition. On the right side, you have essentially you really change the business system. You take out a complete layer out of the system. For example, Amazon did so in retail. I mean, they took out layers, they disintermediated entire retail chains. The physical retailing has come under threat, and that's sort of reimagining the business system. And finally, you have platforms where this comes together and where the network effects are really prevailing. And yes, we have Google and Apple doing this, where they really create the sort of hyperscale platforms, and they are themselves then essentially creating a new norm. So this chart may be a bit complicated, but think about it also as a tool to answer Oliver's question: how can I attack an existing solid business? Where are the margins? Where are the bottlenecks, or let's say, where are the thresholds that existing companies are sitting on? Where can I use technology and different approaches to really find these new profit pools? And that's one way to define a target picture also for an incumbent, because he has to ask the same question than the attackers have. Now, let's take a quick look at the customer. Where are the customers? Follow the customers and understand the customers. I mean, this is old. We know all that B2C has gone online, e-commerce, and it's growing, and that's sort of established. And here you see one of the reasons, it's the huge assortment. I mean, comparing Amazon to Walmart in any given category, you have that type of ratio in the breadth of assortment. That's one of the key value propositions of an Amazon. Interesting, the same is happening in the business and industrial area. I mean, this is Grainger. That's one of the leading wholesale distribution platforms for industrial goods in the US. Huge e-commerce share of over 60%. And in a given category, Amazon is drafting them because Amazon Business, or the former Amazon Supply, essentially has a much broader assortment, and that becomes relevant. If you go to China, for example, where Alibaba has the same role, your customers are likely small, medium businesses. They are on these platforms. So also large corporates have to open for these type of channels because that's where the customer is. Understand your customer. I don't know what you've done over Christmas. I had the pleasure to play Anki. It's the new Carrera car racing. The interesting thing about Anki is it's fun, yes, but they are able to measure more than 500 data points per second, and they completely transmit this, and they have a full insight on location, usage behavior, gaming pattern, who's winning, who's losing, and they're using this to continuously improve their product and also to build a rich data set. And I mean, we're talking about Germany, by the way, yeah? I mean, where everybody is scared about data protection. Anki was able to sell over 30,000 units last year in Germany. I did not see any discussion why this is breaching our data laws. And they essentially have the opt-in from the users, and they're doing this. Now, efficiency in processes. A great example is using artificial intelligence. And I'm not talking about the far or the midterm future, but I talk here about very hands-on service operation efficiency improvements. This is an example with IPsoft, where we essentially have taken 2/3 of all incoming customer calls or email conversations into an AI robot. So 2/3 are essentially automized. And the most important effect is it's not just 2/3 getting automized, but the time for resolution has improved by a factor of 4. So it's not just replacing manual work, but it's actually improving the customer satisfaction. That's when you use digitization for process improvements. I talked about the quantifying the quant skills and the qual skills. We will see this in the storytelling and the way that you communicate to your customers. So keep an eye on that. Don't only invest into IT and data. You also need the creativity part to really become distinctive and also differentiate again towards the end user. And then you have to organize for digital. And I guess here in the room, most of you know the Spotify sort of way of operating. You have your guilds and your squad teams and your chapters. Now, we at McKinsey, with our digital labs, we apply pretty much the same approach to set up an organization, for example, for an insurance company. So one of the companies that Oliver said that are humble enough to understand they have to do things differently. This is a case out of Brazil. In less than 9 months, our digital labs team, together with the client, has built a completely direct insurance platform, Use. If you go on the site, you will see it's completely mobile-oriented. And we have hired more than 100 people into that unit, and it's now the leading and fastest growing pure play insurance company. So we would call it a fintech, but it came out of an incumbent that was really directing its entire way of working to this type of approach. And now let me quickly talk about something that we get a lot of questions about. Do I need a CDO? I keep it short here. I think you can. A CDO makes a lot of sense if he has true budget and business responsibility. And in the end, I guess my advice would be the best CDO is the CEO that is embracing digital and is really leading the change. If the CEOs are too shy for that, then yes, they should actually get a CDO on board. And last but not least, the whole cultural element. And I, again, refer to my friend here. There are things like failure culture, the ability to really be transparent in a company, be really fast. I mean, don't have the 8-week steering committee cycles that take decisions. No, decisions have to be taken on a daily basis, on a constant rhythm. Be open for experimentation, and be really customer focused and base your decisions on facts. I mean, the time is over that the highest paid person in the room should make the decision just by gut feeling. You should use data to really get to fact-based decisions, and all the leading players, from the Palantirs to the Amazons and also a GE that has that skill, are performing better because they are taking facts into their decision set. So, and finally, and that's my closing remark, I think the worlds have to come together. I mean, maybe this nice gentleman exists, I don't know, but in the end, you need both sides. Take the startup culture mentality, be open for innovation, be fearless and risk-loving. And at the other end, I mean, there are a lot of companies out there, large corporates, that have great assets. They have distribution channels, they have intellectual property, they have process know-how, and that's why we at McKinsey believe that digital transformations can work if you bring the mindsets together and if you have leaders that have understood it, that it's now time to change, and then we'll see. I mean, there will be new players on the scene, but we also expect a few established ones to be winners of this transformation. So thanks a lot, and enjoy and take, I mean, this gentleman here, he's smiling, as you can see. So digital transformations are tough, but they make fun and they can be done. Thank you.